Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Behold, there is magic all around us. Awaken, rejoice, and sing.
Hey, this is Dancing Rabbit, and welcome to a really hot Texas Saturday Pagan Perspective. Today we've got questions from 3 questioners, and the first one is Time with Time. I was wondering if you all could do a video about the different types of wood in magic. I've done some research about it and was curious about what others think about the topic. Well, Time, I think you're asking the wrong witch. I realize that there's the Celtic tree calendar, so that's sort of sacred wood, and I think that the Cherokee have a series, I think it's 7 sacred woods or sacred trees, but that's really not part of my system. I use woods in building things, and when I'm camping, quite often I build campfires and cooking fires with wood, and if that was what your question had to do with, then I could give you some answers. Hopefully the other hosts have given you better answers than I did, but that's not part of my personal path. Okay, second question, Cyborg Slayer Nyla. Number 1, have you ever made your own wand, and what did you do to complete it? Well, yes. About 17, 18 years ago, I made my first wand, and it's rather simple. It's basically a 13-inch long dowel that I bought at a hardware store and cut to the official 13 inches. I dressed it with oil. I think at the time I was using patchouli oil because I considered it rather earthy and masculine, and I'm an earth sign and I'm a guy. And I've used this wand pretty much ever since. I use it in magic, and I also use it in gardening as both a planting stick to poke holes to put the seeds in, and as a measuring stick to measure between one plant and the next. So, you know, with my path, what people would call the mundane and what people would call the spiritual do kind of blend together, and you know, it's all one thing. Let's see. I've heard lots of methods of making. Yeah, there are lots of methods of making wands. Some people use tree branches and fashion them into wands. Let me show you a couple that Feather bought me. I don't know if you can see the detail on this, but this is a vine wand, and this is really my favorite. And she also bought this one, which is almost a Harry Potter-ish conductor's wand, sort of a wand, as my dress wand. But I don't use it all that often. I kind of save it for special. So I've got my everyday wand, my magical wand that I mostly use, and my dress wand. And I don't think that it's necessarily a thing that you have to go make or that you have to go buy and it has to be all decorative. The wands that I've particularly not liked are the ones that have lots of stones hot glued to them and lots of copper wire wrapped around them. They just seem to be kind of heavy and I don't know, kind of artificial. Let's see. Cyber Slayer Nyla's second question. Which direction do you use to represent which element? My first real book teacher was Starhawk, and so I use a very heavily fairy tradition influenced Wicca. North, where I generally start, is earth, east is air, south is fire, and west is water. And that's pretty standard Wiccan. I think that it's probably based on if you lived in the British Isles, or at least maybe France, Spain, Germany, somewhere in Western Europe, that To the west would be the Atlantic Ocean. To the north would be land. To the south it's hot, and the wind often blows from the east, I guess. I know that the Druid Network here in North America has been doing a kind of a localized correspondences and also localized Sabbaths project, so that perhaps if you lived on the west coast of the United States, or well, let's say New England, that perhaps water would be to the east and so forth. I know that those pagans who live in the southern hemisphere normally reverse the Sabbaths because their seasons are reversed to the northern hemisphere. Okay, on to next question before I get too off. Christy Rose, what is your opinion of the right or correct magical correspondences? Well, the thing is, all correspondences and all traditions were started by somebody at some time, and probably that person or persons felt like that the two things had something in common. One could be used to symbolize or represent the other, and they used it in magic and it worked. And so they continued to use it in magic, and they taught it to other people, and it worked for them too. So the tradition continues. But I think that it's important to understand that somebody did it first, and somebody could be you. So if a particular correspondence doesn't especially work for you, well, try something else. Experiment and see if maybe it works for you. And if it does, maybe you've started a new correspondence tradition. Novel sunrise. This is a rather long question. Is there a danger of doing something in ritual the wrong way, or is it best for the practitioner to do what feels right for them? I've heard some pagans say do what feels right to you, and others who say do it a certain way or suffer the consequences. Novel sunrise. I'm getting this mainly from Scott Cunningham's book, Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner. It was one of the other early books that I read, and I highly recommend it. That unless you are doing some kind of blood sacrifice, or you are trying to harm someone through ritual, you really don't have to worry that much about some evil nasty jumping out of the darkness and getting you. If you're dabbling around in that sort of stuff, then, maybe you need to worry if there is not an evil nasty out there. You may perhaps imagine one up in your own mind, and it may do as much harm as some actual evil nasty. I do think that the traditional ways of doing things, for example, I cast a circle clockwise. If I were in the southern hemisphere, perhaps I would cast it otherwise. But I cast circle clockwise. It's a tradition, and I think the idea that by people continuing to do something in the same way, use the same symbols for it, the power, the strength of those symbols increases and builds. So if you were to cast a circle backwards, I don't think anything horrible would happen, but what might happen is basically nothing. I uncast a circle counterclockwise, and some people don't do it that way. They cast and uncast in the same direction. But for me, it makes sense to undo things. And the tradition that I learned first, that's the way it was done. I've done it the other way some, and nothing particularly horrible happens. In fact, it works just about as well. So I think that you really shouldn't be too paranoid about some kind of astral, evil, nasty thing attaching itself to you. Consider doing some cleansing before the ritual so that you don't bring some kind of negative emotion in with you. Consider casting a really tight circle if you're doing some heavy-duty magic. We do sometimes present offerings to the outsiders, the others, or instruct the more chaotic spiritual elements that we're not going to involve in this particular ritual to stay outside or to just basically, go away somewhere. If you call things to you that are nasty, then perhaps they might show up, or you might manufacture them in your imagination, and it would be about the same thing. But I wouldn't worry too much. Let's see. Consequences mention problems of astral nasties. Evil spirits could be attracted to your work, causing problems. What's your opinion of how safe in rituals from some things and the danger? I think I've kind of already answered that. I do a fairly traditional ritual, at least, casting circle, calling quarters, invoking deities and such as that for a major ritual. But the purpose of my magic circle is more to contain the power, to create a space to encounter the sacred, than it is to keep anything out. And unless you're purposely doing something evil or destructive, or you come into it really upset, I don't think you have anything serious to worry about. The most serious thing that could happen would be nothing. That your spell might be ineffective and might not do what you intended it to do. It might just basically do nothing because you hadn't really raised power, you hadn't focused it and directed it toward your goal. Okay, it's really warm out here and we've got a dinner party to go to. Those of you who've been watching my personal channel know that I haven't put up anything lately. It's basically been because work has been eating up all my time and energy. I've been working, if you count the commute, 12 and 13-hour days, and a lot of it's been outside where it's incredibly hot. And I get home and I'm just too exhausted, tired, and frazzled to put together a video, especially a quality one. So I'm hoping the next week will be less stressful, less heavy duty, and that tomorrow, Sunday, I'll get to put up some of videos on my own channel and perhaps get caught up on that. So, appreciate you watching. Till next, week after next, because we've got a couple of sub-weeks going on here. So I guess I will see you in September and perhaps see you on my own channel, Dancing Rabbit 52. Till then, wish all of you peace.